let's face it, most agents haven't had to face the price reduction conversation. I was on a call yesterday with a prominent agent out of North Carolina, and she says she has agents on her team that have closed 40 or 50 deals in the last 2, 3, 4 years, and they are asking and unaware of how to have the price reduction conversation. I'm going to break it all down, 3 different strategies that you can use right now, and what to say and when to say it. Let's go. What's up, guys? I'm Jeremy Kane with the Real Estate Agent Playbook, coaching agents and mentoring agents across the United States and in 4 different countries now. If you're interested in chatting about my mentorship, my coaching, please book a call below. But for now, let's get to this. Absolutely serious conversation is needed around this price reduction strategy. So we're going to start out with strategy 1. The best strategy and strategy number 1 is to price aggressively from the jump. You have to understand the market, you have to be a practitioner, and you have to understand that the days of just pricing at, the top level or what the home, the last home that's comparable sold for within a half mile or quarter mile, and pricing at that or maybe a little above, those days are typically over unless you have real data to show that this home is, far and above better than that comparable. The market is actually headed in a flat line or possibly the other way slightly. So we need to take that into consideration. We need to understand the seasonality of the markets. We need to understand those things. So if you can have this data and come forth with the data up front to say, okay, look, this home sold in March at the top of the spring season. This is what it's done since. It's flatlined or maybe ticked down a little bit depending on the zip code. We need to understand that, okay, how long do you want to be on the market? If you want to be on the market, you have to have it closed within 45 days. We need to price it aggressively, sometimes 10% below, 5% below what that, last offer did. Also, take into account when you're looking at the comparables, the concession amount, because this is something that doesn't show up on that sold price, but could have factored into the offer and the negotiations. So yes, 10% below is aggressive. I know if you're caught on that, keep going. But I am strategically pricing my listings 3 to 5% below what that top comp is. Now that's out of the gate. If we want a quick deal, sometimes you'll get multiple offers if you get into that and get it boosted up, which is ideal. However, you need to be ultra clear on what exactly the updates have been and how you're going to present this to the appraiser in order to get the price that you want if you do price it at, that top tip-top comparable. So you need to be very diligent in the data and have that information ready. But ultimately, in my market in Denver, I'm trying to get 3 to 5% that below that top dollar in order to get that quick sale. And that's certainly I understand if the quick sale is more important than the dollar amount, that's ideal. And then we need to, that's the easiest and best way, because here's the deal. When we're on the market and the season has changed and, kids are back in school, and maybe that's good for your market, maybe it's bad, it's not as great for mine. So as the season changes, we need to understand that those prices even dropped when we were going crazy. Right? So the height of the market, and then it would kind of come down and flatten out, and then we go up in the spring. So know that trend and understand what you're up against, because pricing it at that level where that first home sold or the highest home sold back in the spring is probably going to lead to price reductions. And guess what? The average price reduction in my markets, 5%, sometimes 10% at higher price levels. So you need to make sure that in order to price the home appropriately, we don't want to just price it where, max dollar we can sell it for, and then have the conversation that we need to drop it 3 to 5%, to get any movement. Because it's very important that when we're pricing these homes, we want to make sure we're going to be able to collect data. The days of, hey, my buddy at work said it's worth this, let's try it here, and we can always come down, that's a no-go. That's as an agent where I'm saying, well, here's my expertise, here's what's going on, and this is where it's at. The conversations start with data and they end with data, and it's really up to you as an agent what you want to take on. But if you're hearing, we can always come down, we can't go up, that's not necessarily the case, because sometimes you can always come down and you come way down, as opposed to pricing it correctly out of the gate and getting it done. So those are very important pieces to strategy number one. Now let's go to strategy number two. Strategy number two is the straight data approach. Okay, understand this is what the days on market for detached homes in your zip code are. We are going to continue to watch those. These are the data points that we are going to watch, and these might vary specifically in your market, but we're going to watch active days on market. That's pretty easy to solve. You can get that pretty easily from your Realtor boards or from, a simple math problem based on, the comparables of the zip code or whatever. And then you want to see if, your showing service provides data. In our MLS, we have something called InfoSparks, and it provides direct data, right? It's going to provide active days on market, shows to pending, shows to pending is a big one, shows per month. It'll also show different price reductions, average price reductions, and those things. So get into your tools and use it. If your MLS or your Realtor board does not provide those tools, I would then start to look into some of the deep research AI platforms out there, Manus, ChatGPT, deep research functions, and all of those, because if you can get into those deep research AIs and you can use them and prompt them appropriately, you can do that. If you need help with AI prompting, head over to my buddy Adam Gillespie's YouTube channel. He's an absolute whiz at prompting with AI. That'll help you a ton. So once we have that data, we're going to say, okay, once we're out of line with some of these, like say, my MLS and my showing service provides, shows to pending and shows per month. So if shows per month is 8 and it's been 2 weeks and we have 0 showings, that's the market telling us something. Now, pay attention to holidays and things like that based on those 2 weeks. But other than that, we're probably out of whack. If we have 0 showings, we're probably out of whack. You can use different things like hit counters within your MLS, but choose a data set that you can really look at and you can study, and then you can utilize these. This is really good strategy for an engineer type client where you're showing the numbers. It's strictly data, no marketing, no, emotions involved. You still have to market the property and you still have to do that, but we're talking strict data, right? If, you're past the average days on market, let's look at the number of showings. Are we right on for number of showings? Have we had the number of shows to pending based on the average in the zip code or the neighborhood? Don't use the general MLS, narrow it down, which you can on InfoSparks, which a lot of MLSs have attached. So once you're out of line, I would say with 2 of those, it's time to have that conversation. And you can utilize this, you can develop your own strategy, but you need to be analytical. Even if you are the best marketer and it's all about emotion and this is what you've done, it's time to get more analytical as an advisor to your client. And if you have these super analytical clients, which a lot of us do, no offense to the engineer population out there, we need to make sure that we are giving them the analytical data to help them understand exactly what's going on. Those are the easy conversations, because if they see that data, they hit that average days on market, they're like, okay, we're not having the average number of showings per week based on the average per month, and we're not having all of this data, then it speaks their language and they know. And then you go right to, okay, what's the average price reduction to contract? And you can take that information and go from there. And you can tabulate all of this information with just the MLS if you have your 5 key point indicators based on your market, based on what you're comfortable with, based on what's provided to you. But you can figure all this out by doing a data search with the MLS, right? And using AI, you can actually upload that information, put it into a Manus and say, hey, I need average days on market, I need average price reductions depending. You can put that information in there, and if you can prompt it correctly, you can get it done. So the data approach is number 2. Number 3 is the marketing approach. Okay, average days on market is 35. We're going to create a 30-day marketing plan, right? Because our goal is to be under contract. We're going to buy day 35. Okay, understand that. You're having that expectation conversation with this. You're saying we're going to do a long form video, we're going to do flyers, Then the week 2, we're going to do an open house and we're going to do lifestyle content. We're going to do, that kind of stuff. Then week 3, we're going to do community. If you want access to a marketing plan and a listing coach that will help you organize yourself as far as a listing launch strategy for marketing based on days for market, comment listing coach below and I'll send you that GPT that I created. But if we're in this space, we're having these checkpoints, right? We're going to put this out. This is our new marketing strategy. This is our continued marketing strategy for week 2, week 3, week 4. And if you're doing this, you always have that information. Now, don't ignore the data. Bring some of that in. Feedback is always important. You can add that to the mix, but you have to have a strategy as you go. In that listing coach GPT that if you comment listing coach below, you'll get, it also has an ability for you to upload all of the data, your showing feedback, your, social media engagement for the post based on that, piece of real estate. You can look at, homes.com if you're a premier member like I am and pull that in. So you want to get as much data as possible. It will also search the data out there. So the public data from Zillow, Redfin, that kind of stuff, put it all into one, then it will create an outline for you to have that conversation, that meeting. So those are the 3 strategies. Now, let's talk about the conversation. And I've mentioned a weekly update meeting with your clients. I use Loom because I have a lot of clients that are in different places or busy. And so if I'm on Loom, I can provide a video, I can share my screen, I can demonstrate kind of what's going on in the market. And I have that outline that's created by the listing coach that you can have access to. And so I go through it. But here's the key point. If you are continuing, even if you're with the data strategy, even if you priced it aggressively and we're still here, I've put this all together within that listing coach, but some people don't care about the other stuff. That's fine. So if I'm having this conversation and I've had touch points with them weekly, like I said I was going to do, I say, okay, we haven't had any showings, right? This is a terrible touch point. However, if we don't have any showings, it's the best time to talk to your client, help reassure them, help understand, okay, yes, refer back to, remember when I said if we priced aggressively, we'd get more action. There's no way if you're pricing 3 to 5% below market, unless something crazy has happened, that you're not getting, a showing or 2, depending on the market, obviously, if you're at a high price point, whatever, but reference back to the data. But if you have these conversations week in, week out, by the time you get to that price reduction conversation, the data is just telling us. The data does the talking for us. And then it's just about, okay, how do we analyze this data to create the price reduction? And so that is an absolute key, is the constant communication. And so if we are in communication, we have these outlines by that GPT coach that I'm offering you for absolutely free by commenting listing coach below. You will be able to understand exactly what to do as you go, and it will help, right? So in that conversation, if you're just in the marketing kind of strategy, you're saying, hey, this week we did this. This is how many hits we had on, Zillow, Homes, Redfin. This is how much engagement we had. I had, somebody reach out and ask me to show the property. Whatever that is, you're reporting that data because you can put it into the GPT. You can, analyze it yourself. We still can think ourselves and have that conversation. But you're having the conversation. This week, we're going to start releasing the short form for the features around the home, right? Last week, we did the long form. This is how many views it had. This is how many shares it had. This is how much engagement we had, and so on. So you're referring back to the marketing from the week that was and getting the analytics and, portraying those and how you're getting it in front of as many people as you humanly possibly can. How many people saw the email on the MLS? How many people hearted it? All of that stuff comes into play in this marketing strategy. Then what are we doing next week? This week, we're releasing the features videos, the short form. We're gonna do 3 this week, 2 next week. And you're telling them exactly what you're gonna do. Then the next week, you're saying, okay, we did the features, we're past that part. We have 1 or 2 more to release if you spread them out. Now we're working on lifestyle, right? The lifestyle in and around the community, the neighborhood, all of that. And then, you're reporting on what was, you're reporting on what's coming, and you're keeping the conversation going. This is what the feedback said. Make sure that you're, picking the dog food up because someone kicked the bowl over, whatever. Those little tweaks based on the marketing and the experience will really help. And so as we go, once we get to the conversation for a price reduction, it shouldn't be a surprise. You should have the data. You should manage that meeting just like you did the others, and you'll be good to go. And so as an agent who's built their business on relationships, communication, sphere of influence, some of these conversations are not easy. And I want you to know that and understand that. However, the more prepared they are for it based on, the expectations you set in the listing appointment, which we talk about all the time on this channel, then the statistics and what the data is telling us, and then having a clear plan of action moving forward. And I will say, refresh the marketing. Don't just say, okay, price reduction, we're not marketing it anymore. You can recycle some of that stuff. You can, market it as a price improvement and those things. But the communication is key, and everyone loves their agent when it's smooth, it's easy, it's amazing, you're awesome. But everyone loves their agent more when they're in need and the agent doesn't ghost. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need to be communicative. We need to set the bar higher as we work. And this price reduction conversation can be a launch pad for referrals, repeat business, and everything, because honestly, it's not your fault, right? The market is not your fault. The only thing that's your fault is the lack of communicating expectations and, data to your clients so they're in the know. And that's where we can thrive and absolutely take advantage of this opportunity that seems so grim, these price reductions, oh man, and go from there. So if you have any questions about price reductions, if you want me to help you find the data in your, MLS and all of that, or set it up in AI, please book a Realtor game plan call below. I'd be happy to help you, but let's go have these conversations because these conversations are opportunity. Go get a win today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.